Hello again.
Hello.
Here we are at Talk, Walk, and Dance Dementia. Today's topic is loop-de-loo. I think all of those of you who are living with and friends of people with dementia will know that there are times when there are loops that repeat over and over again. In other words, a subject that repeats over and over and over again. And my feeling about it is there's no need for concern if it's a happy loop. But if there's a loop that is causing someone distress, stress, then that's the time to put the skills in about reframing and drawing the dance to a different place because we want to keep the person in a contented frame of mind. But like in Contented Dementia, what the author and what Penny was mentioning was that it's very interesting that when we have a child will love a story and they say, please read it again, Mom, read it again. And they want to hear the same story over and over again because they love the story so much. And we think it's really sweet. And not only that, but some toys have a way of you push the button and it repeats itself. You push the button, they want to hear it over and over again. So I feel that what we need to do is have the shift happening in our own thinking sometimes about the loop and to let the loop happen when it's a happy loop. There's no need really to get out of it. If that person is enjoying it over and over again, it just sort of will wind itself down after a while. We're the one that gets to practice patience in the loop. And we can just do like I've seen many mothers do when Johnny is going on and on about something, and she go, uh-huh, oh, that's nice, uh-huh. That kind of just positive, not much verbal feedback at all, but just an acceptance of the loop that's happening. Because it really is an example of where a caregiver and a friend can shift consciousness. And you can also try things like starting to sing a song that might be related to the loop, and then all of a sudden it's shifted. So that's, of course, about redirection. In the case of negative loops that happen, then you need to do more of the validation communication to kind of do an unwinding. And it could be that they are uh, needing something to be fulfilled or completed. And with careful reflection and validation, we can see some wonderful kind of resolution happen, and they may never bring the subject up again. So that's what I have to say about loop-de-loo. What would you like to say, sister?
I think it's complicated, and I think sometimes, as far as validation, and I am not certified in validation. I've just read the book and taken the seminar, so I'm not an expert in validation. I just know what I've used on my own mother, so I can just speak from experience from what I've seen. I think some people, when they think of validation, they think that people are doing psychotherapy, and they're not. If you look at the book, the people that are experiencing whatever emotion they're experiencing, they don't have the ability anymore because of cognitive decline to analyze themselves, why they're feeling this or anything like that. So it's really a coping mechanism in communication.
Nice.
So, with that being said, whether it's happy, sad, or whatever, experiencing, if it's something that's repeated over and over, and if you can use the techniques in validation to help someone to reframe it or to sort of move on from it, and if the techniques
Resolve even.
yeah, if the techniques are working that
Good.
way, fantastic. If they're not, you may need to get a psychotherapist in there, a gerontologist, some expert in there to work with any type of,
Especially if it was bad trauma.
if it's
Stuff
that,
that's
it's way
beyond
beyond
yeah.
what we are trained in or what we know. Okay, so let me just give you the example of what I used for the loop de loop with our mother that helped, and hopefully this will help you. Uh, Through validation, Mom didn't do a lot of the loop de loop simply because I think we were able to use this. She had some very happy memories, incredibly happy memories that she would like to repeat, and that we would support her in. It was pretty much the same story that would happen. And she usually was sharing it when she was really content and wanting to share. She said, I just love on Sundays when I would go to church and when Mom would make the pie and we would go down, and then she would want to share that. So then I would go back. I said, well, and I would just say some very specific questions to her. I said, "So, what kind of pie did Grandma make?" And when you went to your grandmother's house, what did she make for dinner? What did the house smell like when you walked in? Do you remember that? Because she remembered long term. She just didn't remember what she
Right.
did
The
maybe
hard drive
half
is
an
very
hour.
much in there for old memories.
I will say, in relation to the loop de loop, when my mother had any type of traumatic situation, such as taking the car and having the police bring her to a hospital that day, she had a lot of loop de loops coming up on that ride back from home, for that 3 hour ride. And I think it was more or less caused by the trauma of what
Mhm.
happened.
Yeah.
Because in her mind, when I asked her what happened, she said it was fun taking the car. But then when I talked to her more fully, she said she was so scared and she was praying because the car wouldn't start again
Yeah.
and cars were coming at her on the highway. She had that memory. She remembered it. So it triggered some things from the past, and she was going off on these loops that were just out there that had nothing to do with the car. And so I was able to use the validation and match. I was able to, in the car, match her emotion. And I don't even know what the stories were. Something from childhood. And so I would use what, when, how, where, and whatever. What, when, not
But
why,
not why.
not
Yeah.
why. And the reason that you don't use why, according to Naomi Feil, is because then they have to analyze
Yeah, and they
themselves,
can't do
and
that.
and it brings up a lot of trauma, or they're not able to do it. So then they're just frozen and they don't really know. But if you could just ask them specific questions, so how did you feel when such and such happened? Really? And what were your thoughts? I don't know, just a what,
Yeah, not
when,
that one.
how, where,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So I was actually using validation therapy on her in the car on the way home, and it actually ended the loop. She was exhausted. And
Yeah,
so
my
it took her
God.
2 to 3 days of sleeping to
Yeah.
get through
Yeah.
what she went through, and she never had those loops again. Am I saying that validation is what stopped them? I don't know. Maybe the nap stopped them. But I think what happens is that people actually need to be heard. They need to know that
Mhm.
you are hearing them, because many times as caregivers, we're thinking, "Oh, the loop again. Let's change the subject." And people will
Yeah.
try to redirect
Right.
without
Too
validating.
soon, and it's not necessary.
Yeah.
If they don't need, let's keep them in their happy bubble. Then
Hmm.
it's up to us to change and live in the moment with them as if it's the first time we've ever heard it. That's when acting comes in handy.
And
Keep a pleasant composure and listen.
I heard an exchange by someone, a friend of mine, shall we say, where her mother didn't have dementia. Her mother was just expressing something that was a tough emotion. And her daughter came in and said, "We're not going to go there. We're not going to talk about that right now. We're going to have happy things. Happy, happy." Now, this woman didn't have dementia. And the woman was humored that because she knows her daughter loves her. And she was just humored that her daughter, she was loving her daughter for wanting to get her out of her funk.
Yeah, and she
And
understood
she
that.
understood that. She got that. And her daughter is being really sweet and wonderful. But had that been a person with dementia, and
Yeah.
that experience, you wouldn't have wanted to redirect like that if the person had dementia, because then that would have given that person the message that they're not being heard, and they're going to be doing the loop more and more. So I think I'm limited in what I can share with you, because I can only share my experience. And as I said, if someone has a psychotic thing, that's way beyond
Oh
what
golly, we don't know about
validation
that.
does.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it would have to be a psychologist or something like that. But I can say, in everyday interaction with your family member or someone that if you're visiting someone in the nursing home, you can try some of these techniques with asking questions. And instead of running away from the loop, you go into the loop with them. And all of a sudden it will shift from a redirection to a reminiscence, and it will actually be a happy thing because they know they're being heard.
Mhm.
And that's the thing. So I don't know if that helps. Does that help a little bit?
Yeah, and I want to put a punctuation mark on that. This would be certain times are appropriate to ask questions that we've said before, because different techniques call for not even asking questions, but doing more reflective kind of things. So it just really does depend on the circumstance and your sensitivity and how that person responds when you ask a question or don't ask a question, what the proper time and place is
And then
for that.
also is if they're having a loop over and over, that could also lead to agitation, and that could lead to something because they're
Right.
not being heard. And also, just to say, and I don't want to be, what's the word? I don't want to sound like I'm chauvinistic, opposite chauvinism, meaning that men, but sometimes men, when they have dementia, because of testosterone levels or whatever.
Mhm.
From what I've been reading, sometimes it can lead to violence. It can lead to a dangerous
More
situation for the
agitation. Yeah.
caregiver.
Right.
So in those situations, I mean, you can work with this. You can work with validation, but if it's not working, you need extra help. You're going to need some extra help in
Right.
that situation.
It all
We didn't have
comes.
that.
Yeah.
Our mother was so
We
agreeable.
had an easygoing mother.
We had it easy. We did. Well, not easy.
Well, but
We had
as
our
far
times.
as her basic nature was
Mhm.
so kind and easygoing that part made it, that took away some of the challenges that some of you out there might be having. And we
So
know
you
that
guys can
have
share
them.
with us. You can share with what you're going on. We
Yeah.
could all learn about this together. We
Yeah.
don't. We're experts with what happened to our mother and with where we were with that. We're not
Right.
experts in this
No.
whole subject
Mhm.
at all. We're here to learn still, but
Mhm.
we're here to share our experience with you, which may help because we actually did. We were able to create a very content environment for her,
Mhm.
and she was actually happy. You know, you've heard of happy drunk. She was happy dementia. She was really happy.
Yeah.
I mean,
She was.
so and I think because of what we learned here, we were able to have her be happy, and we were able to retain our health by
Mhm.
it was 5 years, 6 years, 5 or 6 years
Mhm.
of caregiving 24/7. We were able to work with her.
It all goes back to love and the actions of love, and recognizing that that is a soul who is having an experience, and we are there to navigate and help them. Just like midwives for birth, we're sort of like midwives through dementia. And then, of course, sometime we will talk later about the amazing end of life things that happen,
Yeah.
and the gifts of that as well.
And as the quote goes by Ram Dass, we're all just walking each other home. So we're all learning from each other.
Nice closer there, sister.
So anyway, I hope this helps today. And as I said, if you like what we're sharing with you, please subscribe because we want to help folks and we still want to learn. And we're all just walking each other home so we can help each other. So
amen and bravo.
Enjoy, and we hope this helped. We hope it helped. Oh, that's right.
Yes.
Where am I?
This and salute.
Thank you, Shirley.
Lots of love.